Before we get into the Phil Phails 5 questions, let's just talk a little bit about your experience. You wrote a thesis paper that was published about psychedelics. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Phil for you.
Yeah, so I graduated from Texas State last May of 2023, with a degree in anthropology. My minor was in honor studies, which required, if I were to get that minor, that I write a senior thesis. And I actually tried to write it about something else first. I had gotten some archaeological remains from a site in Peru. It was a bag of soil, or there was lots of things in there, including like 600-year-old llama poop. And I was supposed to look at it under a microscope and be able to tell what plants were in there, like was in this, excavated, bag. And I quickly realized that I didn't have the botanical knowledge to be able to look at like leaf structure and stem structure under a microscope to be able to determine what plant it was. And then I have to put it in the context of the site and the context of the region. And I quickly realized that was more of maybe like a master's level thesis. And even if it was, I just did not have the skills or knowledge to do that. And so I went back to the drawing board with my professor, and one of the first things that we connected on was the use of plants culturally in different places. So like ethnobotany. And so I asked the professor if he would let me take a class, like a directed study class with him, just me and him, where I got to study the cultural use of plants in a certain area, or just like ethnobotany. And so I brought to him, I think it's Plants of the Gods by Richard Evan Schultes. And I was like, hey, can this be my textbook? And he kind of laughed. He was like, it's actually too broad. And so he was like, I'll come up with a reading list and we'll do this class. And so he gave me a reading list, and he's an expert in Maya archaeology. And so he put together a class that was basically the ethnobotany of Maya land. And so he gave me all of the papers he could find on looking at how the Mayans used their plants over time, whether it was medicine, whether it was for food, whether it was for textiles or for building or for different kinds of medicine. And so that gave me a good basis to understand how to what ethnobotany was. But my real passion in that was for psychedelics and what plants did ancient cultures used to use to alter their state of mind. And so after taking that class, I changed the idea of what my thesis was going to be and decided I was going to write it on the cultural use of psychedelics throughout many cultures and try and weave together some kind of similar narrative. That's the short answer, actually.
Yeah, that's exciting. It makes sense to me. Of all my friends, Howard Gardner's different intelligences. He had the 9 creative intelligences. They were linguistic or kinesthetic or musical. There was a bunch of these different interpersonal, intrapersonal. You are the friend of mine that has the highest level of, I think, naturalist intelligence. When we go on walks in nature, you're like, here, try this. You can eat this. Oh, this is what this plant is. This is what this tree is. You're connected with the nature in a way that knows the names, knows what's edible, and is aware of your surroundings in that way, and loves sharing it. I think you were doing nature walks with folks for a while, where they would walk with you through nature and get that teaching or the learning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a huge passion of mine.
But that ancient llama poo threw you for a loop.
Yeah, I could not. I got the bag, and me and my thesis advisor looked through it for a second, and we're like, oh, there's shit in here, quite literal. It's 600 years old, and it still smells like manure.
Oh, it really did?
Yeah, it still had some smell to it. Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
So from a subjective perspective, so this is the paper's perspective. You have this desire to research and look at cultural uses and of psychedelics, and you also have a subjective experience of psychedelics.
Many, yeah.
Yeah. We share that in common. As a child, I stumbled into psychedelics recreationally, and as an older adult, from a kind of an orientation of healing, I went back into psychedelics. You also do you have a similar experience, or what's your subjective experience of psychedelics?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think my first my first experience I had of using psychedelics, well, I would part of my research was determining what is a psychedelic and what is not, and I made a good argument, I think, for cannabis or like weed being a psychedelic. So I'd say my first experiences were like with weed, but I don't know if I like saw it as a psychedelic experience at the time, and I didn't have the right like framework for it. But my first time like doing like a really explicit psychedelic, I smoked salvia leaves, and I was probably 14 years old.
Whoa.
And I had a friend who worked at the family restaurant, and he was older than me, and he wanted to be the cool coworker, and so he went to Planet K and bought me some salvia divinorum.
At 14?
Yeah.
My daughter's 15.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can't imagine her.
I wouldn't recommend it either, but I was so eager, and that's what I could get my hands on. And so he bought it for me, and I remember doing it in the upstairs bathroom of my parents' house at like 14 years old. And I was so scared to do it that I kept him on the phone with me. And he's probably like, what, like, oh God, what did I even get myself into, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, that was my first time, and I would get all my friends to do it, and we'd like have salvia parties, and we'd just really just get dissociated and like confused, and it was kind of funny. But looking back, I actually think it was a very irresponsible way to be using a psychedelic, especially one as strong as salvia divinorum.
And at that age.
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend it.
Yeah.
So that was my earliest experience. And then me and my friends started to play around with mushrooms and eventually LSD. And I feel like LSD is really where I started to really understand the powerful nature of psychedelics and how they can help change my mind and alter the way that I see the world in a really powerful way.